Welcome everyone to Legion Gaming. I'm your host Donnie, and as always, I am joined by my co-host Ducey.
Hello everyone.
Ducey, how are you this fanciful fine afternoon?
Well, I am doing good. I am ready to talk about this series. It's one of my favorite Nintendo franchises, and we've got a beautifully weathered day to do this.
Oh yeah, it's pretty flawless right now where we are, so it's definitely a great day to talk about anything. And more specifically, we're very excited that this is our 30th episode for one, which is pretty incredible. We've been doing this for 30 episodes to begin with. That's us sticking to new hobbies. Yay for us. And I guess I'm going to tie a celebration on that anyway when we're covering one of our favorite series, and this is Star Fox, originally on the Super Nintendo, and also we're going to be covering Star Fox 64, released on the Nintendo 64, and a little bit of Star Fox 2, a little bit of everything Star Fox from the early years.
Yeah, they have had probably more games than people realize, but
this is true. It's really weird.
I've liked them all, except I've never played Zero, the Wii U one.
Oh, I didn't get to play that either. It sucks. I owned that for a little bit before I got rid of the Wii U, and I just never booted up because I barely booted up the Wii U.
Yeah.
But I would like to play that one, even though I've heard not great things about it.
It was like meh.
Yeah, especially because of the force controls.
Oh yeah,
right, with the gyro and the tablet thing. So this is a little bit of a blemish apparently on Star Fox, but nonetheless, we're here to talk about the origins of Star Fox and why we fell in love with it. Before we do that, what have you been playing lately, Ducey?
So let's see. I've stayed with the Outer Worlds, even though some things have come out that I want to play, like Jedi Survivor finally hit Game Pass, and
I can't wait for you guys to play that.
I've been waiting for over a year because I was like, nope, it's definitely coming. It's definitely coming.
Yeah.
But then I got hooked into Outer Worlds, and I don't want to just sort of put that to the side like I did the first time.
Yeah, that's fair because Jedi Survivor, I think I put that on my top. Yeah, I think that was on my top list of 2023. I don't think it was an honorable mention. I think it was actually on my list. That was one of my favorite games last year, and it's a pretty beefy game, like longer than you'd expect. Because Fallen Order was reasonably long. I'd say actually it might have been like half as long. I don't know. But Jedi Survivor took me about a solid 30 hours, which is pretty long for a big old meaty Star Wars Metroidvania game. So you definitely want to take your time with Outer Worlds before you get into Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, because that one's going to be meaty as well, especially with the DLC attached to it. I got to the second main thing. I got off the main planet that you start on in Outer Worlds, and I've gotten to like the big spaceship / space station that you do a lot of things from. It's kind of like the hub. Yeah,
isn't where you sort of pick up your first bounties and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
It's like after the main big town. Yeah, I think that's shortly before where I stopped way back when.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know in the original playthrough I got pretty far. I don't know how close I was to the end though. But yeah, I just wanted to restart with the new updated graphics, and like I said, I don't know where the DLC slots into. I'm thinking I can just sort of play it as additional side missions while I'm completing the main mission.
That's what I would assume, because most of these games, we talked about the awful debacle of Marvel Ultimate Alliance DLC and their practices, right, of how they put your DLC locked. But it seems like a lot of these open world games that do it, like it's usually like, a quest marker that you can start to initiate the first quest in the DLC. So I imagine it's probably the same for Outer Worlds.
Yeah, sometimes you don't even realize that it's part of the DLC if it's come with a whole bundle. Like I was playing Skyrim, and I got one of the later editions that includes a lot of the DLC, and then all of a sudden I'm doing missions that I didn't realize were in the original game.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, because when I first built my PC, my coworker gave me Fallout 4 Game of the Year edition as a gift. Like, he gifted me on Steam because he's like, you really have to play through it, because I hadn't played Fallout 4 before then. And I did the same thing where I was doing a quest, and I was like, damn, this is really good. I don't remember what quest it was. And I found out it was DLC. Like one of the smaller ones. It wasn't Far Harbor or Nuka World. It was like whatever other DLC. It was like, oh, well, that was really cool.
Yeah. Glad I got the experience for that. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, this is a really long quest. Like, what's going on with this thing? And then, he told me, he's like, oh, no, you did DLC. It's like, oh, well, it was great.
Yeah.
And, I did, like, one of the first things I did in the game.
Yep.
Anything else you've been playing, or was it just Outer Worlds just been occupying your time?
What have no, I've been basically that. If I don't want to get into anything heavy, I still go to House Flippers. And then I also just recently played the Top Spin thing that you did. The trial.
The trial. Mm-hmm.
That's definitely going to sell me. I want to get that.
I figured it would, because I was kind of skeptical the same way you were, because I played. There was another tennis game that was on PS Plus. I forgot what it was called.
Oh yeah, I think it was. Oh, man, I want to say.
It had some like almost generic
It
tennis
was so
name. I don't remember what it
something.
was. It was called like Tennis Champion. I don't know what it was. And I played it, and I was pretty disappointed because just it was kind of an ugly game, which shouldn't hamper things on a tennis game. But it just didn't feel right to play. Like anytime, I don't know crap about tennis really, but I know what a tennis game should feel like, and this just felt like off. Like I just wasn't feeling like the connection of my controller to the movements. So when I did the trial for Topspin, I was like, I had an open mind obviously, and I only did the initial training camps with John McEnroe is his name. Yeah, right.
That was a great option.
It's really cool, and he actually sounds really good too. Like sometimes they get these celebrity trainers or whatever to do voiceovers, and they sound bored or just not great. And he sounds like he's into it. But anyway, like the gameplay is really fun so far. Like it's pretty cool. Like I learned a lot just in those first few lessons.
Yeah, I was impressed. I did tennis in high school, and a lot of the basics in that first lesson were the basics that we learned back then. So I was like, okay, yeah, this all makes sense. And I can see why McEnroe was okay with it. He was just excited to talk tennis.
It seemed like that's what it was. Like he was generally excited to teach people about tennis. And like, it's a pretty thorough training. Like it even explains some of the things and why you're doing some of the things you do and some of the techniques. So it was really cool. Cause like I said, I learned a lot in that first, I played for like 40 minutes. Like, oh, the no man's zone. All right, that's where I'm always at in these tennis games. I shouldn't be in there.
Yeah.
So I may end up taking the plunge as well in that because that one is cool. It is cross-play, cross-platform. So at least if you and I get it, then we'll be able to play, and then maybe we'll convince Mike and Randy to jump in or something.
I was about to say, I know they're listening. You guys better get it too.
If you're not going to listen to us now, we'll text you ahead of time to get it. Yeah. And then you'll hear this and be like, all right, well maybe we should. I think it'll be fun in doubles. Yeah.
Oh, I've also been playing, but we're about to talk about them. But I've been playing. I went back and played the original Star Fox on Super Nintendo and Star Fox 2, which was the unreleased one that came out recently on the SNES Mini and then finally on the Switch Online.
Yeah, so this I've been playing those as well. Those, I mean, we'll get those momentarily because those were just a fun time no matter what. I didn't play Star Fox 2 though. Like you went a little bit further, so it'll be great because you have more context behind Star Fox 2, and I don't really have as much.
Yeah.
But they're still excellent games. Like I really loved the Super Nintendo one and Nintendo 64, and then kind of still sticking to the retro kick. And it's funny you mentioned Jedi Survivor because, well, firstly I played Star Wars Rebel Assault 2. Do you remember that on PS1? You might have borrowed it back then.
Yeah.
So it was that weird kind of rail shooter FMV game. Like it's really static. Like you play as you don't play as Luke. You play as like some X-wing pilot.
Man, I forgot all about that game.
Yeah, so I remember
it's like multi-disc too, isn't it?
It was. It's 2 discs, and I owned it on PS1 way back then. I got it at the warehouse, and I remember playing it, and I beat it. I was like, I think that's one of the beginnings why I liked it because I could beat it, even though I didn't realize how short it was. Because everything, it's really crude and fast. It's almost like an arcade game. Mm-hmm. But oh my god, I forgot how clunky the shooting was in this game and how imprecise it is. Because you play as like a B-wing in the first level, and like there's no cursor or reticle. It's kind of like Star Fox, but not as good.
Yeah, man, that was the first time I learned what a B-wing was.
Yeah, me too.
In the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, and the second level, you play as I forgot what his freaking name is, the pilot that was in the X-wing or in the B-wing, and then you're on these set pieces. It almost looks like a light gun shooter where it's like you're hiding behind these pillars and you pop out to aim and shoot because there's no light gun support at all in this game. It's just aiming.
Was there supposed to be?
No, I think it's just how it was because I think it was a PC game first. And they ported it to PS1, and it's kind of an ugly game, but it's nostalgic nonetheless, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's just I got my 15-20 minutes out of it on PS Plus, but also our friends at the Retro Pool Guy podcast asked me to fill in for their co-host for Super Star Wars, so I got into that a little bit. So their episode's gonna be releasing pretty soon. I didn't get an exact date yet. Like we just recorded it yesterday as of this recording. And it should be out in the next few weeks. So I was on there to talk about Superstars, which is a really fun time because
just that one, like
just that one, yeah. So we just covered that game. We talked a little bit about the original trilogy of movies, the prequel trilogy of movies. We tried to avoid talking about the current movies, but we ended up talking about it anyway. But anyway, Super Star Wars, still a fun time. All these years later, I remember when I first played that, I was like 7 years old, and it had just come out because. I call him a friend. He wasn't my friend anymore because he stole that comic from me. Remember that kid I told you about, Elliot? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I remember him. He had Super Star Wars, and I played it there, and I didn't really know what Star Wars was at the time. I don't even know if I had seen the movie, But I just remember playing the game and like it was really cool, but it was also ungodly hard. So that's very much true today. Like I played through it this week, or I shouldn't say through it. I played some of it this week.
Nobody plays through
Nobody
it.
plays. Well, actually, Derek on the Pool Guy podcast actually played through it on
my God.
Brave. It's ridiculous because he played it as a ton as a kid apparently. So good for him. But for me, I quickly realized that the only way you should play this game is on easy because normal mode, there's so much crap happening at you. The collision detection is awful. Like there's a lot of issues I have with the game. There's slowdown.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll get hit by things and it doesn't look like you get hit, but it takes a ton of life. But I had a lot more fun on normal. I got through about half of the game in like 20 minutes. So that tells you there alone.
When you play on easy, does it like take away anything at the end? Any endings?
I have to look it up because the reason I didn't play it on easy normally or initially was because I thought of that in case I would get through the game, which I didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
It's also on PS Plus, by the way, I should say, because they have the classic Star Wars games.
Really?
Yeah, it's weird because way back on PS4, I'm gonna say like 2016ish, somewhere around there, they released the classic Star Wars pack. So it had Super Star Wars, just the first game from the Super Nintendo game. It had Star Wars Bounty Hunter for PS2. And I think Racer Revenge, it had some bundle of like some old Star Wars games. But the Super Star Wars port is on PS Plus right now. That's right. I played it first before I went to an emulator.
That's weird.
It's cool. It has save states, which is really nice and helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a great time. Yeah, it's a lot more gorgeous than I remember because it's a 32-year-old game at this point. It follows the movie pretty well, I would say, with the cutscenes and just the levels. It's just freaking hard. That's my biggest complaint about it. Is that it can be cheap and freaking difficult. So I had a lot of fun revisiting that one.
I rarely ever got past the speeder section.
Yeah, and that one, okay, so check this out. Like when I played it, because I watched a speedrun years ago, so at first I already knew that I could just slide through most of the level, right? Which I wouldn't have thought when I was a kid. And the land speeder level, I did the same thing where like I would roam around to kill the little Jawas. You have to destroy them before you can get to the sandcrawler. And I was just going in circles. I was trying to seek them out. And I realized, like, if you just stay in one spot, they'll come to you. And you just shoot them and blast them. And when you kill all 11 or whatever it asks you to, you just fly to the sandcrawler. And that's it. Level's easy as hell.
Oh, so
Didn't know that as a kid, though.
Yeah. You don't use any fuel while you're staying still?
Exactly. So you just sit there, just wait for them to approach you, because they always do, right? You're almost like leading them to you. And then that's it. You fly to the top of the screen and go to the sandcrawler. Level's done.
Damn. How come nobody told us that even in like Nintendo Powers or anything?
I never knew that because that was the wall. If you actually got past the first boss, which was the Sarlacc pit monster, which was already difficult on normal. Like you go to the land speeder level, it's even more difficult because it's mode 7, crude mode 7.
Yeah,
flying through these ugly graphics, right? Try to kill Jawas.
Always running out of fuel, and then you survive that and you get to the third level, but you have no like lives or continues left.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's there's some elements of the game that are really dated, but I don't care. Like I loved it. Like I obviously own them on Super Nintendo too, so it's not like I hate the games. They have a special place in my heart because they were significant for what they did, and they're one of the better tie-in games of the time.
Yeah, I think sure. I now have. I'm pretty sure I have all three now. Just the carts. I didn't get any boxes, but just the carts. I think I got them through the VGM mailing.
That's actually surprising they give you that. Yeah, because those are pretty solid games. Like they're not dirt cheap. They're pretty valuable-ish, like $20-$30, I'd say. Maybe. Yeah. So yeah, that's really all I've been playing lately. Of course, last week we had our special episode where we did our pickups and sort of catch up, where I was still playing through like Stellar Blade and Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Nice.
There's a lot to play now. Not that there ever wasn't, but it's always a great time when you have all these choices, and the hard part is just like, where am I going to play? Mm-hmm. And you sit there for 20 minutes and decide to play nothing.
And I do want to try out that one you showed me, that RPG.
Ayuden Chronicles. I don't know how it's pronounced.
I think it's Ayuden. That's Ayuden. Yeah, it's pretty close.
Like that. Yeah.
But yeah, that's also out on Game Pass. Right next to Jedi Survivor. But both of those are going to be really long games. And like I said, I'm already committed to Outer Worlds.
Yeah, those are going to be beefy like that. I definitely want to try the Ayuden Chronicles. It's supposed to be a sort of successor to Suikoden, which a lot of people have fondness for. I didn't play it back then because it was hard to find, and I just haven't played it since. Yeah. And with that, I guess we'll go on to our main event here, Deucey. We're going to talk some Star Fox.
Yeah, it's fitting that we were talking about Super Star Wars, and now here comes another spacefaring game that kind of seems a little inspired by it.
I would say so. We're going a little bit to our anthropomorphic interstellar squads here with Star Fox. So it's kind of fun that, I guess, because really, like, we didn't really plan this too far ahead to do Star Fox. I was just like, hey, you want to do Star Fox? I'm like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Let's do Star Fox. So maybe that's wise. I just kind of had the Star Wars bug in my mind. I was like, yeah, let's just run with Star Fox. But this game, I would say a pretty important Super Nintendo game, Ducey, overall, and definitely one of our favorites. I would say it's like probably top 10 for me.
It was the introduction, I think it was the introduction of the Super FX chip.
It was, which we'll dive into too, because that's also a pretty important piece of hardware for the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
So Star Fox was originally released on March 22nd, 1993. So this game just hit around 31 years old, which is pretty insane.
Wow.
Because it doesn't feel like it's been 31 years since this game came out. So this game, it's an on-rail shooter. It's a lot different than what you'd expect from an on-rail shooter, especially at the time, and especially on Super Nintendo. Like, Super Nintendo really didn't have these type of games on there, I would say.
I think, it was kind of like, what is it, Turn and Burn and those types of...
Yeah, and Space Harrier, which I'll make my argument for that, because I was trying to connect. I was like, it seems like Sega would have done something like this, because this game feels familiar, but it's also very much different, and it does a lot new that was never seen before.
For sure. It's 3D. First of all,
3D on the Super Nintendo, a very foreign concept.
Yeah.
So we'll just get the story out of the way here because it's pretty basic and cut and dry. You have Star Fox, which is a squad of these sort of interstellar, I don't know what you'd call them. Like,
they're mercenaries.
Mercenaries, right? Yeah. So you have Fox McCloud, you have Falco Lombardi, you have Peppy Hare, and Slippy Toad. Slippy Toad is probably the most notable for being like a goofy frog that no one really likes, but he has his own charm.
He's my wife's favorite, actually.
Is he? Okay, there you go. So Slippy has fans. I love Slippy too. Yeah. So Fox leads his crew of animals to defend Corneria and Venom because Andros, who was like this scientist who was on Corneria, he sort of went rogue and evil and decided that he wanted to create all these monstrous things, and he was sort of exiled to Venom by General Pepper. General Pepper, excuse me. There's Peppy Hare and Pepper. Yeah, General Pepper. Andros, in a sense, essentially declares war, and Pepper sends Star Fox, the only badass team in the universe, to go destroy Andros, essentially. And that's really the impetus for this whole game. It's really loose because throughout the game you'll have like these little cutscenes that are like on the screen of like dialogue and whatnot. The story's pretty loose. We'll get more into the other story about Star Fox 64 when we cover that one.
That one had a better story, I would say.
I would say so. It's more fleshed out.
Star Fox 64, I know not to jump ahead, but it is just kind of the retelling of this one that sets up the whole Star Fox universe in future games.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's why I think that one's even more fun to talk about because it's similar, but it's not. It's a different game, but it's supposed to be the same game.
Yep.
Yeah. So the origins of this game it's pretty interesting because you and I showed you this game like way back, I think, when I had heard of it. It's a Game Boy game called X.
Oh, yeah.
It's only released in Japan. It was developed by Argonaut Software, and one of the main programmers there was Dylan Cuthbert, he's pretty famous, I think, in gaming, especially for X and Star Fox. But X on the Game Boy is a rail shooter, and it's almost like a really primitive precursor to Star Fox. It actually doesn't even look like it should run on Game Boy at all. It's one of the more impressive looking things that you'll ever see on the Game Boy.
It kind of looks like the first person mode of Star Fox.
It does.
But on a Game Boy, which is mind-blowing.
Yeah, and this, again, like, so at a time, this was pre-3D. 3D was like just sort of, it was on PC and, in on a much smaller scale. Like PC it was still new on PC.
Doom was coming out or came out, but Doom had like pseudo 3D.
It was, and that was also late 93 for that.
Yeah.
And I think Alone in the Dark was out at this time. That might have been 92, somewhere around there for PC.
Yeah.
So again, 3D was just very much new. If you go back now, it just looks crude, ugly, flat, but mind-blowing in 1992 and 1993. So for X to be representative of 3D on the Game Boy just shouldn't have been possible, but somehow they made it possible. So Dylan Cuthbert was the programmer, and it was pretty cool because Gunpei Yokoi of the designer of the Game Boy
fame,
of Metroid, of the Virtual Boy, he produced it. So again, it seems like anytime you talk anything important on the Game Boy, including the Game Boy itself, Gunpei Yokoi's name pops up.
He had an eye for those sort of things. That was his baby, and he wanted the best for it.
He really did. And it's like, people talk about how Virtual Boy was like his awful final project, which it was, but at the same time, like,
he was trying something.
That's what I mean. I think that's the thing is people don't recognize, like, that was him trying to step the next sort of portable as unportable as the Virtual Boy was, trying to step in that next evolution of a portable device, and unfortunately, it just failed miserably because, it was probably just too early. And it was just the wrong thing to do. Like red and black are not a great
It was
thing
ahead
to
of
look
its time.
into.
But didn't you also say that like Virtual Boy was almost fully colorized?
They were hoping to, and I think it's just one of those things where because previously I'd seen in GamePro reading like a few months ago was that they were gunning for like a color screen, but I'm sure that after they announced that, they're like, wait, this is gonna be insanely expensive to produce and even more expensive to sell, and then they went with red and black, and I think that's just it. It's just the death knell right away when you're looking at a red and black screen where the game's forcing you to take breaks in between.
They really should have gone with green and black, like the wireframe games of old PC or old arcades.
like Battlezone and games like that. Yeah, I think that would have been better, but I'm sure it's one of those things where they probably explored it, and the red was probably the cheapest avenue they could get to make it reasonable, because I think it was $200 at launch.
Actually, to get kind of sciencey with it, I'm pretty sure red is like the easiest wavelength on the eyes.
It could be that too,
which is also bad because they still made you take breaks.
It's still bad. Yeah. So again, like Gunpei Yokoi, he often gets thrown under the Virtual Boy bus, but he was really important to Nintendo and really important to gaming in general, because the Game Boy is the reason we have the Switch today. That's there's no bones about that.
True.
Yeah. So they had developed this game, and it was only released in Japan. That's kind of the shocking thing about this, is that it was never released anywhere else. This would have been a cool game to release in the US, but Nintendo of America thought this game was too advanced for a console meant for kids, so it just never came here, which is such a bizarre thing to say.
Yeah.
Like, this game is too complex for our little kids who are used to Mario Land and Metroid 2, because that game is, not complex at all.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. And as such, like, X led to Star Fox later on down the line, because they were sort of piloting 3D movement, and like, they knew that 3D was coming as on the horizon at this point. Like, no one was really doing it set PC. They knew that Sega, who was their biggest competition, probably would come out with something 3D-ish, because the Sega CD was out at this time too, but even then it wasn't doing 3D well. It was all really crude FMV 3D, right? Like it was still flat.
They were cheating.
Yeah, exactly. So they wanted to do something for the Nintendo, and that's where they prototyped something called NES Glider. This was inspired by a 1986 Commodore 64 game called Star Glider, which, again, it's just like a rail shooter. It's funny. It's pretty common. It's just like Space Harrier and Star Glider. They're just kind of like these rail shooters that were really primitive at the time. So Nintendo wanted to do something like that on the NES, and they prototyped NES Glider, and then that just didn't get released because they really realized that like there was nothing they could do to make it run any better. So they just decided that the Super Nintendo was more powerful, so they'll try something on there. And then that's when Argonaut got involved with Nintendo. And the reason Argonaut got involved with Nintendo is because they broke Nintendo's copyright protection on the Game Boy. It's pretty crazy. The way they got their attention was just breaking their system. So what they did was that when you put up a Game Boy, you put the game in it, the Nintendo logo sits in the center of the screen.
Yeah, it comes scrolling down.
It comes scrolling down. So what that has to do, that's almost like a hardware thing where it checks that the ROM is also matching it to the same instance. And if what happens is if an unauthorized or unlicensed game does that, for one, it matches up that the Nintendo logo is there, but it's also saying that Nintendo is, licensing this game, which it's not. So it falls into trademark infringement. So someone at Argonaut, the team there, decided to break that by including like a transistor and a capacitor that costs less than a penny, that would dupe that sort of ROM check to think that the Nintendo logo was there, but it wasn't. It said like Argonaut or something like that.
Oh.
So Nintendo's like, hey, this is mind blowing. You guys want to work with us and work on a game, So that's kind of like what just precipitated NES Glider and the relationship with Nintendo to start Star Fox. And Star Fox, do you remember like when you first learned about this game, Ducey? Because I'm sure there's a lot of buzzers being thrown around at this time for Star Fox.
I don't fully remember when I first learned about it, but I do remember seeing the Nintendo Power for it. It was on the cover, but the characters were like fully realistic puppets.
Yeah, like they almost had fur.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I do remember that.
They could have easily been Muppets, except they also had legs and everything. They didn't have like anything controlling them, but it was it was almost sort of creepy in a way. Like, luckily you felt safe with the characters. You knew that they were the good guys, but at the same time you were like, ew.
Yeah, they look like gruff mercenaries almost, but not in like a Nintendo Power way you would expect.
But that definitely catches your eye. Like I said, it was on the cover, so you open it up, and then you see the first screenshots, and you're like, wow, this is nothing like that. But I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, the graphics in here, if you haven't played Star Fox, I assume if you're probably listening to Star Fox episode, you probably have played it in some capacity, but you should check it out for sure because it is a technical marvel on the Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo came out in 91, Star Fox was 93, so the system's 2 years old. It's probably hitting its stride as far as games and tech right now. Like, a lot of games are pushing, not quite to the limit, but they're optimizing how they're presenting their games on the system, right? And Star Fox is essentially a fully 3D game, but it's pretty primitive because that's what 3D games were back then. Like, there's a lot of flat shapes, flat surfaces, and maybe a color. There's like a dithering effect on here, but this was a fully 3D game that had never been seen on any console before. Really,
to me, I was ready to give it a shot because I had seen older 3D quote unquote games on the PC or maybe even in arcades, but they were all like we mentioned earlier, the wireframe, and this looked like a wireframe that was just filled in, colored in. Like in between the lines and everything. So like I didn't care that it kind of ran slow or that it looked primitive. It didn't look primitive to me.
It looked amazing.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is it looks primitive now, but back then it looked amazing, especially, I'd seen Terminator 2 when I was a kid. And
yeah.
like, the CG looked amazing back then, but to me this was like the equivalent of seeing like the T-1000.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's on the Super Nintendo, but also it's like this shouldn't have been possible on the Super Nintendo. When they were prototyping this game, they quickly discovered that like everything you wanted to do wasn't possible. So they had to include extra hardware, which is what led to the Super Effects chip, which was a huge, huge buzzword when that thing came out. I remember that being in Nintendo Power, like in GamePro, everything had to have that buzzword Super Effects chip.
They even put that label on the games that had it. Like it was right front and center on the cart. Exactly,
yeah. So the Super Effects chip is just essentially that. It's an extra piece of hardware. It's another chip that they include on the onboard, on the ROM for Star Fox, because what it does is it crunches all the calculations, renders all the 3D polygons in the game. So that's kind of an impressive thing. Is like nowadays with consoles, because they're CD or digital based, you have no way to really upgrade the hardware, right? Like they have those mid-generation like PS4 Pro or Xbox One X.
Or the one, there's talk of a PS5 Pro coming out.
PS5 Pro, like the 3DS XL,
and
right?
even those are starting to get more and more minimal with their upgrades. Like this was a big leap.
They're incremental upgrades. So in the Super Nintendo, that was it. The hardware, that's all you had. But you could add extra chips or extra hardware to the actual chipset of the ROM, and that would also enhance the games themselves, because now you'd have the hardware of the Super Nintendo and also the hardware that was on board on the chip. But the problem is that productions go up with that, so not every game's going to use it because it's insanely expensive to get these chips, and you also have to increase the cost for for games for what they cost, right?
I feel like I know Yoshi's Island later on uses it, but it might have only been like $10 extra.
In most cases, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if a game was like 70, it would have been like 80.
Yeah.
Which it's funny when people complain now. It's like, oh, 60, 70. It's like, yeah, we've been paying that since 1991, 1992. Yeah. It's all the same. You're just discovering the pains now.
It was a lot more back then.
It is, yeah. So the Super Effects chip, it was, again, like they had these engineers that were totally dedicated to making this thing work, because they really wanted to do 3D with, they wanted to have the Super Nintendo handle the 2D assets, and then this chip would power all the 3D stuff. And so originally was codenamed Super Mario Effects, which led to, I didn't realize this, I guess there was rumors that people thought this was a game in development, Super Mario FX, like they thought that was like the hints of the code name. But that's just what they called it because it's a backronym for the chip. It's Mathematical Argonaut Rotation Input Output.
Oh yeah, okay.
Which and it's funny because on the Super FX chip itself, Super Mario FX is actually printed on the production chip, which I thought was really cool that they included that there. But I don't remember anything about Super Mario FX thing back then. I think that's just people, they took something and ran with it is what it was.
I don't remember hearing about that at all, but I mostly got my news from Nintendo Power.
Exactly. They probably wouldn't have reported something like that.
Yeah.
It sounds like it would have been from the Q-Man or whatever his name was in EGM. So the Super Effects chip, it's only about 8 games use it, which is, it seems like it would have had a bigger footprint than that, but it's not many. Like Star Fox is probably the most notable. It was also the first one to do it. There's a couple games in Europe, Dirt Racer and Winter Gold, which is an Olympic game. And then Stunt Race Effects was another big one that used the effects chip. Like that one, you could definitely tell was fully 3D, even though it ran at like 15 frames a second.
That was a hidden gem for me on the Super Nintendo.
I love that game. Yeah. It's an ugly game now, and it's clunky.
Dirt slow.
It's dirt slow,
but it's still fun.
But back then, like it was really freaking cool. And then I always thought that Street Fighter Alpha 2 had a Super Effects chip in there because it had load times. But I guess that uses a different chip that I didn't realize there were so many chips on the Super Nintendo. Believe it or not, there's like I don't know, there's like at least like 5 or 6 I saw.
God dang.
So Street Fighter Alpha used the SSDD one, and then even games like Mega Man X2, X3, and even Mario Kart use these enhancement chips. Just there are different capacities, right? Because it all depends on what the game needs. Super Effects was just the one where they needed it to run 3D and render 3D, and that's why I think went with their Starbucks.
Yeah,
Star Fox.
For the longest time, I didn't even realize Doom used it.
Yeah, I remember seeing that on the box as well.
I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I must have just like sort of glazed over it, but I played Doom a lot on Super Nintendo. That was the first time I had really played Doom, and it makes sense. Like,
it does. Like, it's still not amazing looking 3D, but again, it's like the fact that they got Doom running on a Super Nintendo is incredible. There's no way that should have been possible at all.
It's like Resident Evil 2 on N64.
It is. Like, there's certain games and certain ports where, they may not be the best ports, but I have to recognize like what sorcery they use and what engineering magic they had to use to get the game to run on a cartridge-based system like this, So Star Fox, it's heavily inspired by X-Wings, which I think is pretty obvious by the R-Wing design.
Yeah.
Miyamoto was heavily inspired by X-Wings, and then the Senton Torii Gates, which is at this they're at the Fushimi Inari Taisha Shrine in Japan. That's kind of like where it was near Nintendo's offices, and Miyamoto would kind of walk there to like, kind of clear his mind.
Yeah.
So he was inspired by the gates, which you could see in the game. Obviously, like there's certain gates that look like Torii gates.
Yeah, you got to fly through a lot of arches in this game.
You do, which makes it more of like an action thing, which it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's like once you hear that, like, oh yeah, that makes perfect freaking sense. It's also Miyamoto always wanted to use the English word fox in a game, but he had no way to do it. I don't know why he was attracted to that, but he didn't want to use the Japanese name, which is Kitsune, I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So he wanted to use fox. He had some sort of affinity and fondness for fox, and this was the perfect instance to use it, which also led to the anthropomorphic animals.
Yeah.
And additionally, which makes sense now that I read it, but he loved Thunderbirds when he was younger. And this is very reminiscent of that, right? With the puppeteering.
I was gonna say that explains the cover of the Nintendo Power.
Yeah,
now.
and the flapping of the mouths, like when they're on the screen, when they're talking, like it just looks like hand puppets, like the Thunderbirds. And then a lot of Japanese folklore also inspired their protagonists. Like he wanted to make Pepper a dog and Andros a monkey because there's a Japanese expression that says fighting like dogs and monkeys, which I thought was funny because we say fighting like cats and dogs.
Yeah.
But in Japan it's dogs and monkeys. And another fun fact for this, in Europe, because there's a company called Starvox, it's a German company called Starvox.
Oh yeah.
They changed the name of this to Star Wing, which is a pretty interesting name. I say less attractive.
Yeah, because I'm not sure. It's okay, but I would think of some sort of generic shmup or something.
Yeah, like it sounds like Zero Wing.
Yeah,
right. Like those dime a dozen great shoot 'em ups that you had back then. Absolutely. Yeah. So once Star Fox released in March '93, they had a Super Star Fox Weekend competition, which I confused this with something I saw at Blockbuster back then, but this is a whole separate thing that they did. This took place on the weekend of April 30th in 1993. It happened at like 2,000 retailers across the U.S. And basically what they had, kids could come by, they'd sign up, and they would play Star Fox on this special edition cartridge. It's called like the Super Weekend Competition Cart, which is a mouthful to say.
Yeah.
But the whole idea was that they would get the highest score on there, and what they would do is the highest scorers would get a Star Fox t-shirt and like a pin. And then the highest scorers were entered in a drawing to win a trip to either London, Paris, Sydney, Tokyo, or, hear me out here, take a lump sum of $15,000. And Trevor Petersma from Garland, Texas won. And what do you think he took, Ducey?
The lump sum.
The lump sum. That's the only answer. I'm like, yeah, I could buy a trip to, Paris with $15,000.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't I do that?
And have some left over.
And have plenty of leftovers. So that Star Fox Super Weekend competition card, actually, you could buy it because it's a card. It's incredibly rare.
Of course.
And it goes for about $2,500, which is utterly ridiculous.
It's up there with those old NES Championship games.
It is. Yeah.
I've never heard of that before, but I think I still didn't have a Super Nintendo when Star Fox first came out.
Oh, you didn't?
I'm pretty sure I didn't.
Wow, I thought you would have had it around then.
I could have sworn I got mine. Maybe I did. I thought I got mine late, like for Christmas of '93.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think now. Yeah, because we would have been.
Whenever Mystic Quest would have come out, I guess, right? I don't know what year that came out.
But we were in 3rd grade, I feel like.
Oh, so it would have to be 93 if that's the case, yeah. I didn't realize you got into so late, but anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, I had some catching up to do. I'm trying to remember if I rented Star Fox first. I know a friend up the street had it, so I borrowed it from him a lot. But I don't remember how I first got into it, really, other than I saw it in Nintendo Power and said, I got to find a way to play this.
Well, it's funny because the way I played this was at your house. I didn't have Nintendo Power. Like, I would kind of get GamePro every now and then, like, or I would read it like at the grocery store when my mom was there. But I don't think I knew much about Star Fox, and I'm pretty sure you had rented it, whatever the case was. I played at your house. I was like, oh my god,
Yeah.
this game is amazing.
And it wasn't 2-player back then, so we had to do a lot of trading off.
Yeah, and there was a learning curve as well because it's one thing I discovered on replaying this is there's no aiming reticle, so that made it a lot harder to shoot things.
Unless you go into first-person mode.
See, I tried that and I couldn't figure out on the Switch. I tried hitting select and it wouldn't go in the first person.
You can. I don't know if you can planet on the planets. You can in space.
Oh, that's probably why.
Yeah.
I was on Corneria trying to do it. Yeah, that would make sense. So when this game released, reviews were very strong. We'll go through a few of them here. We typically like to cover GamePro, EGM, Nintendo Power. Those are kind of like the big three, I would say, of the time. I can't think of anything other magazines. Like there's Game Fan, EGM2, stuff like that. PC stuff. But I feel like these are like the big three you're looking at the grocery store, newsstand,
in fact,
wherever else.
For the longest time, I didn't even realize EGM went back that far.
Yeah, right. I only knew because I'd seen them at the store, but I was more of like a GamePro kid, and I get into Tempars at your house. Like I remember when your dad would come home and like you would just plop the new issue in the playroom or something,
Yep.
So I was like, yeah, new issue. All right, let's check it out. So we'll start with GamePro. GamePro reviewed it in April 1993 in issue 45. This was the cover story, which I expected. This was a huge deal at the time. And they did a huge 5-page story on this. They detailed everything about the game, and they also had details on the Super Star Fox Weekend competition, which I thought was cool, like how the entry information and where you can go. And I had never seen that before. Like I always heard about this thing, but I didn't know how they really advertise it, and I was kind of surprised that GamePro even went through it. But GamePro reviewed it, and they gave it 5s across the board. So you had that spiky-haired red guy in every category: graphics, sound, control, fun factor. They really said nothing bad about the game. They thought that this was like the new star of the Super Nintendo, like it was a showcase, which I think it's valid. That this thing was a showcase for the Super Nintendo at the time.
Yeah, it's funny now though. People like kind of talk down about it. They're like, "Oh, look at this! How primitive it all is," and it's like, yeah, but this was never done before.
Never. And we've talked about in other episodes how in 94 and 95, that's when Saturn had come out and PS1, like 3D was really cementing its new foot in the gaming world. And this instance was Nintendo holding on to that, saying like, yeah, like we don't have a powerful system, but look, we can do 3D too. It may not be as good looking, but you still have 3D and a whole new experience on the Super Nintendo.
It was definitely a blow to Sega at the time because this was before Donkey Kong Country, but it was sort of a 1-2 punch. Like you get Star Fox in this crazy 3D, and then the next year you get the rendered 3D of Donkey Kong.
Exactly, yeah. And and Sega at this time really had Sonic. That was really probably the biggest thing they had. Sonic 3 and the Sonic Knuckles in 94. And of course, they were already focused on like 32X, Sega CD, and the Sega Saturn. So it's like they were already kind of on their way out. But you're right, like the Super Nintendo was like, no, we're holding on for a little bit longer, and look what else we have that Sega doesn't. Yeah. Sega cannot do this. There's no way. So again, GamePro completely positive. Like they absolutely love this game. They adored it. And EGM had a similar sort of story. They covered it in issue 47. This was in June 1993. Mortal Kombat was actually the cover story here, which again makes sense because EGM was definitely like, they were more about like what was really prevalent. They were heavy on fighting games at the time too, because that was a big thing, like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighters, Virtua Fighter, all that stuff.
Yeah, what was going to reach the bigger population?
Yeah, especially in arcades, right? So they gave it 9 out of 10, 9, 8, and 9. They were impressed with the graphics that were afforded by the Super Effects chip, and they actually compared it to favorably to like PC games of the time. And they said that the graphics are smooth with almost no slowdown, which I don't know if that's totally true. I guess we might have different definitions of that.
Yeah.
The only thing they criticized was were they plain graphics, which is a fine concession, I would say. Like, given what it's doing, I think it's fine that everything's like a flat color and like there's a dithering effect that gives it some depth, but not too much.
They'd still do a good job of the explosions and things like that.
The explosions look great. They're all sprite based and they look really awesome. Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
There's even some parts, I think it's in the original, where you shoot some of the spaceships in space, and then like a little pixelated pilot comes flying at you.
Yeah, it's just those little touches like that, which Nintendo would never do now.
Yeah.
They'd never say you destroyed a ship and ejected the pilot into space to suffocate and die, you know? It's a different time back then. That's, again, they only criticized the plain graphics, but they also noted that the voice, music, and sounds were also really, really good.
Well, that was a thing that surprised me, was there was voice work.
Pretty solid voice work.
Very rudimentary, but like at the beginning when you're first launching, and then I forgot about this, but at the end when you beat it, like you can hear Fox and Pepper talking on the radio. Like Fox.
I don't remember that at all.
Fox is saying, "This is the Star Fox team. We're headed back to Corneria," and then like Pepper was like thanking them for their good job.
Yeah. See, which again, like I even forgot about that. But this thing is like there's voice work in here, which was not a big thing.
No,
not many games had it, especially on Super Nintendo back then. Super Metroid did, but that was in '94, right? And there's probably a few other examples, but wasn't a thing. This game did a lot of new things that hadn't been done before. And then Nintendo Power. This is perhaps the most surprising to me, Deucey. This one was covered in April 1993. It was in issue 47. This was the cover story, which made perfect sense. It was their big marquee game. Nintendo Power was blowing out Star Fox at this time. So in this issue, they had a 12-page feature with tips and guides on some of the levels. They had Act 3 of the Star Fox comic. So this comic was crazy. This comic started actually before the game released. So you actually got a view of the Star Fox universe before. It was started in February 93 and went to December 93. There's 132 pages in this comic because they did basically 12 pages per issue. And I remember going to your house reading like, I don't think it was this specific one. It might have been Star Fox. I'm sure there's a Metroid one, I think.
Yep.
There's a few others, but I remember the comics being a huge deal in Nintendo Power.
Those were one of the things I always looked forward to. There was a Star Fox, a Metroid, or Super Metroid, Mario, and Zelda even. And I don't think I read the Zelda one as much back then because I wasn't a big fan of Zelda.
Yeah.
I played the games, but I didn't really care about the story or the world. But the others were awesome. Like Super Metroid had some things in it that I wish was kind of implemented. There was another bounty hunter out there, and he had sort of like a blue version of Samus's suit. Mm-hmm. He was kind of the rival to her, and I thought they should have implemented that in some way. And then Star Fox, I wish they implemented some things. They kind of follow the path of the Super Nintendo game, where they even talk about the black hole secret level, which I'm not even sure if I remember how to get to. I think there's like these little portals.
Little gates.
Yeah. And you keep spinning faster and faster to get through it. But like they talk about that in the Super Nintendo, or in the comic. And there was even an extra character. There was like a female Fox that was sort of kind of a pilot just as good as Fox, but also kind of his like rival and love interest. And she had this awesome looking R-Wing that was black and yellow.
Oh, that's freaking cool.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that.
I was like, I know they were, struggling to get these to look the way they did on the regular thing, but try a little palette swap. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. And it's also one of those things like, I don't even know if they could do different colors too. I'm sure they probably used the max colors they could.
There's a reason that they look
in the
this
main
way.
Game, yeah.
This is the smoothest it'll run this way.
Yeah, but the comics were really cool. I'm sure there's a PDF online of the whole freaking saga. I was just impressed that it was 132 pages because I know they were beefy back then. I just didn't know that they continued for like 9 issues or where it was.
I knew they were in a lot of the issues, but I didn't realize how long in each issue they were.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Equal that.
Absolutely, yeah. So the review for Star Fox on Super Nintendo, so I was surprised at this because Nintendo, especially with their own first-party games, like they're usually pretty glowing, especially in like the Nintendo 64 era. I feel like that's when they really were like really positive on most of their games.
Because they knew they were not as great?
I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
They had to polish some things?
Yeah. And for Star Fox, I was surprised at the source. So for graphics, they gave it a 4 out of 5, which I'm like, really? Like this is your first 3D game and you gave it a 4?
Yeah. You can't stop talking about the Super FX chip, and then you say, "Oh, it's not as great."
Yeah. Play Control got a 4.2. Challenge got a 4.2. Theme and Fun 4.2. So they were, 4 is a great score out of 5 still, but it still feels like it's pretty lukewarm overall for the significance of this game.
I mean, I know that it's a shooter, so Theme and Fun you might be comparing it to others of that genre, but the control seemed fairly tight, and the challenge though I would have ratcheted that up a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult
because like when I said I've been recently playing it, this past time that I played it was the first time I've ever beaten it on the medium level. Mm-hmm. Literally, like I still haven't beaten it on the hardest level.
Yeah, I tried hard. That's what was stupid. I just went to hard because I could do hard pretty well on Star Fox 64.
Yeah,
and I quickly learned not on Star Fox Super Nintendo.
This one, I don't know what it is, but it will just beat you down like really quick, like 3 hits, and all of a sudden you're crashing. And I'm like, oh boy,
it's rough.
And it's interesting because each path has different planets and different sectors to go to. It's not like the same planets on 3 different difficulties. So if you want to see some of the other levels, you're going to have to suffer through that difficulty path.
If you can beat it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So getting back to the Nintendo Power review, the pros were the excellent control of they call it the spaceship, which I thought was funny, even though it's like in an army. It's technically a spaceship, whatever.
Yeah, you're in space.
They liked the 3D effects and sound, and they thought the 3 different paths, the different sort of branches you can go through, gave the game replayability. But they thought the polygon graphics lacked detail, which was, again, a surprising ding. I didn't think they were going to be so upset about that.
That's on purpose. That's your fault.
Yeah. and again, it's like, what else can you expect on this thing? It seems like they like the thing barely runs at 15 frames a second on its own. I can't imagine any more detail and having it run at like 10 or 8. It's crazy. And they thought the hit detection on objects such as asteroids that it seemed like it was a little wonky. Like, sometimes it might seem like the hitbox is bigger than what it seems like on the sprite, which I say it's a valid, it's a valid complaint. Like that did happen where it's like, sometimes it's hard to see what you're hitting or what you're getting hit by because it seems like you're not, but it's also like a matter of the perspective it's coming at you just in general.
I found myself a lot of times I'll put the ship up to the top of the screen and aim down because I couldn't see.
Me too.
If it's like right in my eyesight. Like.
Yeah, exactly. So it had quirks like that. So I think it was valid. I was just surprised that the scores weren't more glowing, I would say.
Yeah. But
in general, solid reviews overall. Like this again was a pretty significant game at the time. We kind of dived into some of the bits and pieces of the game, but Ducey mentioned the 3 sort of routes you have on there. They're all different. I've only beaten the easy one as a kid. I didn't go through this time on easy. Like I just figured I'll try hard because I was stupidly confident and quickly realized like I got to like level 2 and I was like, oh, this is not gonna be a fun run. This is gonna be rough.
The only way I got through this time on the middle level is save states, because when you die in this, like I was finding I was getting enough lives and I even got a couple continues based on points, but when you die, you lose your blaster upgrade.
Yes,
and they are a lot fewer and far between compared to Star Fox 64. And you really need like the top of the line, I think they call it the Hyper Blaster, where you're firing like balls of lasers.
Yeah, because you can upgrade your lasers. There's things where like you can repair your R-Wing if you go, I think they're called what they called here. They're called ring gyro repairs.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of power-ups, like there's supply rings that look like, I guess they're like little arrows that point in different directions, right? And those refill your health. You get, there's small energy that appears when you kill enemies. Those seem really infrequent too, though. Like I wasn't finding many power-ups after destroying enemies. And also you could get a power shield, which makes you invincible, which you definitely need, but also doesn't last that long in this game.
Not if you're taking hits.
Oh, is that what it is? It's
It's
hit-based?
hit-based.
I know it's time. I thought it was time-based.
I thought it was too until I got it right towards the end of the level before the last. And I was like, oh no, it's going to wear out because there's this little cutscene of the boss coming towards you. But it didn't until the boss started hitting me. And I was like, well,
that makes sense.
Thank God I had it.
Yeah. So this game, I didn't get to beat it this time, but you did. I know one of the most vivid memories I have is getting to Andros at the end, and he kind of looks like the T-1000 face. Like he looks highly reflective, like he's just like this 3D face spitting polygons at your squares.
Yeah, he's got some edges. He's very polygonal.
Yeah, he looks like God, I don't remember the name, but it's hard for me to reference it. But there's the PS1 had this like face mascot for a short time in like 95, 96. I'll put a picture up and I'll send you a picture. But it reminds me of something like that where it's just like a disembodied head, but 3D looking and just flat.
Isn't it kind of reminds me of the System Shock enemy or boss.
Oh, Shodan? Yeah, in the hacking areas. You're absolutely right. That would make sense. Yeah, which that came out after this, so that'd be funny if it was loosely inspired by Andros. Yeah. So overall, this game, I still love this game. I think it's definitely great. Deuce, do you have anything you want to go through on your playthrough here? Because you played through the medium route, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting how both this and Star Fox 64 have a lot of the same areas and planet names. So I was trying to equate which planet I'm going to, and thinking about the future version of it. Like, there's a planet called Titania that you only get on the medium route, and I'm pretty sure in Star Fox 64 that's the one where you're on the tank.
Oh, the land. Yes, it might be.
And in this one, it's kind of interesting. It starts out as a snow level, and then at some point through it, you hit this like weather system to repair it. I don't know how blasting it repairs it, but
it heats it up. I don't know.
It worked, and then all of a sudden the snow goes away, and you're on like the planet that is kind of what it looks like in Star Fox 64. Also, they do this kind of in the 64 version, but in this one, if you go at Venom, the last planet, from a different way, you get a different part of the level. Like, Venom on Easy Path is just a regular planet level, kind of like Corneria, but darker. Mm. On the medium path, you go into... General Pepper calls it the back door, which is questionable. but you go into it, and then it's just this weird like tunnel that you have to worry about, and you have to use the brakes a lot because there's this boss that like comes very dangerously close, uncomfortably close to you, and you have to keep like hitting the brake and flying to the left, flying to the right to avoid it. But you also have to worry about like the walls on one or both sides or pillars coming at you. It's a lot. It feels a lot more claustrophobic than the easy mode. Mm-hmm. But either way, you still fight Andross looking the same. Like, it's the polygonal face, and then when that goes away, it's this weird cube with a gorilla face on all sides.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's that's the thing is this one, it does have multiple paths, but they all ultimately lead to the same ending, more or less. And because you touched upon, too, like the stuff with the braking. I forgot to talk about that stuff, too, where you can brake and you have a boost. But I think that's what kind of differentiates this rail shooter from other things. Like, my thing was, I was trying to think of like the parallel to the Genesis for this game. And I would say it's games like Space Harrier is probably the closest because, you know, you're floating, the perspective's kind of the same. But, you know, that's really rooted in an arcade game. But with Star Fox, you kind of have a little bit more variety where it's like, you're braking and navigating the area, even though it's kind of coming at you no matter what, because it's almost like an auto-scroller.
Yeah.
But you also have to maneuver around certain enemies. Like, there's certain obstacles that get in the way. Like, there's a lot more feeling like you're flying in, you know, a spacecraft versus just flying all over the screen to try to destroy everything that's in your way. You know?
There's the gates. There are certain gates that like open and close, and you want to time it to either have to hit the brakes because the gate closed on you and you have to wait for it to open, or if it's open, you want to take your shot and jet right through.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think, I don't know, is there any sort of final thoughts you want to give on the Super Nintendo version here before we dive into the Star Fox 64?
I think it's still very enjoyable. I think I showed you recently they have that mod where it goes 60 frames per second.
I want to check that one out.
But it's hilarious that it affects like certain enemy things, like the way things fly. Things go too fast almost.
Yeah.
Your boost is tied to it. So you could boost and then it'll immediately come back because now 60 frames is like instant.
Well, it's like I was telling you when I played Shadows of the Empire on PC, when I played the PC version, I realized that I was pretty certain that the physics were tied to the frame rate because Dash was like zooming around and like the little droid bots were bouncing really fast. So it's funny that Star Fox has the same thing where it's like it's tied to the frame rate and certain things just go bonkers because it doesn't know what to do and it's scaling up to the speed and makes no freaking sense. Yeah. So I do want to check that one out for sure. And from my perspective, like I said, you know, at the top of this sort of section we were talking about, where this is definitely like a top 10 Super Nintendo game for me.
I could see that.
Like it's, you know, if you distill it just like you distill any other game, like maybe it's just a cut and dry rail shooter, but for the time that I played this and the significance it was to the Super Nintendo, which was still fairly new, it was only 2 years old, but it was, you know, 3D was on its way. There was no way it was going to avoid that. This did a lot for the Super Nintendo because it also gave us other games with the Super Effects chip, like, you know, Yoshi's Island 2 and Stunt Race Effects. So it's definitely one of my favorite games. I'd say now it's absolutely worth playing, even for the 10, 15 minutes you'll get out of it if you get tired of it. Because easy is pretty reasonable, I would say. Mm. It's just medium hard is really freaking difficult.
That's the challenge there. I was proud of myself that I could finally get through medium, even if I was using save states. But it is surprising that I never owned this, and I only recently got it physical, I think, through one of those boxes. Mm-hmm. And the amount of sound effects and voice clips or voice warbles and just the music that is still ingrained in my head. I was surprised by it. I was like, whoa, this is a crazy flashback. It could easily go in my top 10 because I never owned it, and yet I know it so well.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point, because I didn't own it for a long time either. Like, I got it when I started to get more of my games finally, because this is when I didn't own. And I found it, cheap. It was like 10, $15 before I got a box set for it. But I was like, how did I not have this before? Like, I played it a ton, yet I don't own it.
Yeah.
Somehow. But you're right. And the music as well. I didn't get to touch on that, but the music is freaking amazing in this game. Like, it still has some more iconic themes you'll hear from then. And it sounds really good. Mm-hmm. There's some tracks that are pretty foreboding. Like when the boss starts careening in.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like you're about to get destroyed.
It sounds like an army marching at you.
Yeah. Like the Imperial March or something. It's freaking awesome. So, Super Nintendo Star Fox.
Oh boy.
Whoa. Star Fox, definitely give it a shot. I would say it's one of the best Super Nintendo games you could play, and it's aged, but it's still a fun time. So before we get to Star Fox 64, we have to talk a little bit about Star Fox 2, because this is the game that never was, but actually ended up being what it was. Ducey, you played this pretty recently, and the history of this game is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of weird, because this game was basically done. It was developed shortly after Star Fox 1 was finished and released. They were working on Star Fox 2, but by this time, Saturn had already come out. PS1 was on its way out, so 3D was about to make its its footprint. Like I said earlier, like at this point, it was there. It was going to be a big deal, and by the time Star Fox 2 would release, they knew that was just be too far behind. So this game was essentially completed, and then all of a sudden, last minute, they pulled the plug because they realized that this was not going to be the game they wanted to present, and they wanted to use the Nintendo 64 and all its power to make a better Star Fox game. But this game was finally released seemingly out of nowhere, in a sense, on the Super Nintendo Mini, which was out in 2017.
Yeah.
That was a huge surprise. No one expected this, because the ROM had been floating around. Like, even then, I don't think it was fully complete. I think it was like one of those near complete builds, and Nintendo actually went back to finish Star Fox 2, whatever needed to be finished, or at least polish up a little more before they put it on the Mini. And then now it's playable on Switch Online. I only played like a little bit of it because, to me, it's, at the time when I played, like, I really want to check it out. But it was also more of like a novelty because it just felt so different, and it's a drastically different game. But a lot of what was in this game ended up being in Star Fox 64. But you finished it last week.
A lot of it is in multiple games from here on out. Like, there's a whole like overworld map to it now. Mm-hmm. Still with a lot of the same planets and same sectors from the first game, but you get to choose where you're going as Andros is attacking you with different things. He's got like these battleships. He's got missiles. He's got little fighter wings. There's even this weird like space dragon thing that's kind of not overpowered. You can beat it pretty quick, but it has this super laser that like cuts through you pretty quick. Mm. And you have to choose based on like, as you move, these other enemy elements move towards Corneria, and you have to keep it protected and keep it as little damage as possible. And you have to choose, do you want to take out the missiles that are flying in space? Do you want to take out the enemies or the battle cruisers that the enemies are taking off from? Or do you want to try to get to a planet that's launching the missiles? And once you figure out that pattern that you want to do to keep Corneria safe, it does go by pretty quick. It doesn't feel as long as the original Star Fox or even Star Fox 64. But this way of planning is also seen again in Star Fox Command on the DS. Even though in that one there's also this like fog of war.
Yeah, that one's really more into tactical. Yeah.
Yeah, that one is a lot of, you draw up your map and then hope that you like crisscross some enemies in the way. But this one, it also has just a lot of stuff you'll see in Star Fox 64, like the all range mode.
Yeah.
It's done a little differently in this, where you still feel like you're always behind the person. You can't do like U-turns or full on loop-de-loops, but you have to bank hard to the right or left and like do quick turnarounds to find your objective. Luckily, you have a little radar with dots on it that shows you where to go, what buttons to push. That's another thing. You go onto a planet, you turn into a little walking tank thing.
Yeah, I do. I played a little bit of that, where it's like a bipedal tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of that is fairly easy. you do have more characters. You can now play as every member of Star Fox. Plus, there's 2 female characters. There's like this little lynx cat and a dog. And everybody, well, in pairs, they have similar attributes. Like Fox and Falco have the original R-Wing, and they have sort of middle of the road everything, middle shields, simple bombs, middle speed. The 2 girls are extra fast but less shields, and Slippy and Peppy have beefier shields but very slow. I ended up like beating the whole thing as Peppy. I needed the extra shields to tank some of the hits.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. You can also pick 2 of them, so you can kind of mix and match what types you want.
Like a different combo and different makeup.
Yeah, and before you enter the little level or you enter the battle, you switch out which character you want. You also get a little floating space station that you have to fly back to rejuvenate your shields. But that also, it's all part of the tactics. You have to take the time to fly back to it, which also could mean that the enemies are advancing. I overall enjoyed it. I was surprised. I was only going to play a little bit of it and then put it down, and then I realized, well, I've already beaten this. I've already beaten that. I've already beaten this one planet. I might as well stick through it.
I feel like you just had to just go right on through because it was apropos for the time.
It was super quick, actually.
Yeah, I have a feeling that maybe that's also what led to it not being released, is that it's a pretty ambitious game in general, but it's also considerably shorter. It's also very different, and then even the other point that they wanted to make was that they would have had to invest in the Super FX 2 chip, which again would mean that production costs would have gone considerably higher, and it's just they already knew that it was going to be a bloodbath with PS1 and Saturn, and also the N64 was going to come out a year later.
Yeah.
So I think all those that combination of events, as unfortunate as it is,
even the same year, I've seen on the little copyright it says 1996.
Oh, it was 96.
So yeah,
in the same year, which would have been there would have been a nightmare because I think it would have gotten eaten up because by the time the Nintendo 64 came out, no one would have cared about Star Fox 2.
It would have gone the way of like DuckTales 2 or Chip and Dale 2 on the Nintendo.
Yeah, like a late release that was lost of time, which this really almost was.
Yeah.
I don't know how the ROM popped up or whatever, but it's incredible that Nintendo was like, they wanted to invest the time and resources to actually, port or whatever they had to do to get this game running on the Mini Classic and then on the Switch Online, which is, again, even more impressive that they went to that for that.
I almost forgot. It also introduces, and this is a big part of 64, but it introduces the Star Wolf team.
That's right. Yeah, they were going to be introduced in this one. Yeah. Which we'll talk about too because they were one of the coolest additions in Star Fox 64.
Yeah.
So all of that with Star Fox 2, all of that is what ultimately led to Star Fox 64 because once they canceled 2, they dedicated all the resources to making Star Fox 64 the biggest thing they could. They really want to use everything that the hardware could afford, which included like dynamic audio. Like I remember distinctly when you play the game, when you first play, you see the red arrows at the bottom of the screen or side of the screen, depending on what enemies are approaching, and you can almost hear the audio coming from that side. It's it's way different, which was a new thing at the time. Like that audio design wasn't what it was on the Super Nintendo, and it's interesting because Star Fox 64 is. From what Miyamoto said, he said that 30% of it is it's original, and then 60% came from Star Fox 2, and then 10% was brand new. Excuse me. So it's 10% brand new, and then 30% came from the original. Mm-hmm. So it's really just an amalgamation of all the games, and this is sort of like I even want to call it a remake or reboot. It's kind of like a reimagining. I don't know what you want to call this.
I wouldn't even say. I don't know if I would say remake, but. Not a reboot. Yeah, I guess you could say it's a remake because it combines the first two. Star Fox 2's story is even less of a story than the first one. It's just Andros getting revenge. Mm-hmm. So they didn't need that. They could scrap that, but they could take the elements of it and make a whole new story that they wanted to tell, like with the Star Wolf team having one member from the former Star Fox team, which isn't even covered in Star Fox 2. Mm-hmm. And then I think that's probably part of the 10% brand new.
Probably.
Is having Fox's dad included and stuff like that. Yeah,
because they kind of retconned a lot of things.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
But it definitely takes the locations and the planets from the original, which I was fine with. I remember when I first played the Nintendo 64 version, though, I always tried to figure out, was it a sequel? And I always tried to, in my mind, go, sure, we'll call Star Fox for Super Nintendo the one with Fox's dad.
See, that's the thing is, I thought it was a sequel when I played it as a kid. Like,
Yeah.
I assumed Star Fox 64, like everything was new, you know, and like I didn't think that was gonna be like a total reimagining of the original game as the way it was, you know. So what they did with this game too, it's like they wanted to add a lot of newness to it, which I think they did. Like they added the Landmaster tank, which was this really badass tank you could pilot on ground missions, which was obviously not something you did in the original game.
That's definitely better than the little walking thing.
It is, which the walking thing, I don't know if you played Star Fox Assault. I want to say that was in there as well. Do you remember that?
Was it in that one?
I
No,
want to say it was. Was
I
it Star
thought
Fox
that-
Assault or another game?
I thought Assault you actually just got out of the.
Well, I thought, yeah, you had the on-foot missions. I could have sworn you had the bipedal tank, unless I might be wrong. Maybe it's another one.
I think the bipedal one came back in Zero.
Oh, is that where it was?
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Oh, you might be right. It's like that side game they had. You might be right. Okay. So I was going to say, because that bipedal thing sounded familiar.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they had Landmaster tank in here, which was a full-on tank on ground missions. And you also had the Blue Marine sub, which was really cool. This is for the underwater level in the game.
Yeah.
They actually wanted to have more underwater levels, but they decided that it killed the pace too much.
It was pretty slow in that, and it was very basic. Like you could just barrel roll through the entire thing and never get touched,
Yeah.
and just keep firing the homing missiles, and you were fine.
That's what I did. I basically clawed that thing where like I was mashing R and I was mashing B and A because you had infinite torpedoes.
Yeah.
It was silly, but you know, it didn't matter. The level was still fun and I got through it that way. But I'm glad that they only had the one because I agree, like that one, it's a cool scenic level, right? Because you're kind of coasting through, like chilling through in the sub. But it would have sucked if you had to play like 3 or 4 of those levels. I just don't think they needed more than one. I think it was fine with what they had in there.
It's also on the hardest path, and you don't always go to it.
That's true. Yeah, that's the other side of it. Yeah. And then another notable thing about this game is that it was the first game to release and feature the Rumble Pack, which I remember very vividly because this game came out in, I think it was June 30th, 97, somewhere around there. Yeah, June 30th, 97. And my birthday was the week after. So I asked for this for my birthday, right? And I remember having the giant big old box, and the big thing just said Rumble Pack on it. And the Rumble Pack, if you're not familiar with it, was this accessory that you would plug into the back of the Nintendo 64 controller. It took 2 AAA batteries. Mm-hmm. And it was just the first instance of Rumble that I think it was before even the DualShock. Like this is the first instance of Rumble that I ever had in a game, where I tried to add that, you know, that extra level of immersion with feeling every explosion. And I remember with this game specifically where you would detonate your smart bomb, and that thing would shake beyond belief.
I wouldn't even call it so much a shake as a very mild vibrate.
Yeah.
A tingling in your hand.
And you hear the plastic rattling.
Yeah. There's a high-pitched buzz.
Yeah, it's very distinct. So this was the first game that used that, and it was actually packed in with it until I think it was the Player's Choice is when they stopped packing it in. Because eventually Nintendo, of course, would release it on its own, the Rumble Pack. It was like $15 or $20, I want to say, maybe 30. What it was.
I'm not sure what it was, but I know I got it separate because I never owned Star Fox 64.
I got one more after the Star Fox 64 one, but yeah, I had Star Fox 64, and I was lucky that I found a copy on Etsy for dirt cheap because I don't think the person knew what they had, so I got it again. It's really cool. So yeah, great instance of the Rumble Pack. First instance of that is just that one extra level of immersion I think helped, because back then, like, you know, it's like PS5 now has that haptic feedback, which is really incredible. Like you feel every little vibration to different degrees.
Yeah.
And back then we had like a rattling piece of plastic, and that was like the coolest thing ever. So the story in this game, we'll move on to the story. The story in this, it's pretty similar to the first game, but they've added a little bit more color to it. Like they've added a little bit more backstory. Like you said, Ducey, like Fox McCloud's dad is James McCloud, and the whole thing here is that he was part of like sort of the original Star Fox team, and he led the team to go against Andross. And then who was the guy that betrayed him? Pigma Dengar.
Yeah.
Pigma Dengar.
They had Peppy hair with them too, so Peppy's kind of old.
Peppy's the old school OG who's like, I knew your dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Pigma Dengar, and he led them to Venom. They went on a mission to Venom, and he was betrayed, and ultimately he was sort of, they presume he's dead, is pretty much what it is, because Star Fox 64 takes place, I think 2 or 3 years after the events of that happening. And it's the same idea. Andross is starting a war across the Lylat system, which, by the way, in Europe, this is called Lylat Wars. It's not called Star Fox 64.
Which is fine. That makes sense.
I think it's a stronger name than Starwing. I like that name a lot more. Like, Lylat Wars sounds pretty cool. So Andross starts the war, and then Pepper summons the new Star Fox team, which is, you know, Fox McCloud as we know it, and his team.
I think in the comic, they even mentioned his dad briefly. I don't know if they talked about him on being on the Star Fox team, but they mentioned he's a pilot and that Fox wanted to be just as great a pilot as him.
Yeah, I would guess they probably didn't say what happened to him, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense. So then, as Ducey mentioned earlier, this is the introduction of Starwolf, which is a really badass villain team on the other side of the war here, where you have Wolf O'Donnell, who's a wolf, Leon Pawlowski, who he's the chameleon, right, and then you have Andrew Oinkony?
Oinkony or something like that?
Oinkony?
Yeah, he's Andross's nephew.
Yeah, he is. And you have Pigma Dengar, who's also, I guess he's like a pig as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes up Starwolf. And you encounter them a couple times throughout the game. One is more noble, and I forgot what the freaking level's called. Katana?
Oh.
Whatever it is.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, that's where it introduces the all-range mode.
Katina,
something like that.
Yeah.
So you see them there, and like they have a little bit of a dialogue between them, it's a little bit of a rivalry. It's really cool. I think it works great because you have like a whole... You're dog fighting, or wolf fighting in this case, I guess, or fox fighting, what you want to call it. It's really cool. So you encounter them, and then there's a couple endings in the game. The easy route, you destroy the robot boss of Andross, and that just leaves them drifting in space, which... It's funny you mentioned that point in Star Fox 1 where, when you destroy certain pilots or ships, their pilots like fly off into space.
Yeah.
That's basically what you do to Andross on the easy route ending. And then the hard route ending gives you, you have a different boss fight with Andross. Like you still fight him, I think, in the robot form. And you fight you fight his face first. And then you see like this robot endoskeleton thing under it that you start blasting the hell out of it. And then when you destroy him, the base you fight in Venom starts to self-destruct because he arms it, of course, right before he dies. And you're getting out and you're sort of flying through. It's sort of like I guess it's a scripted event. And then you see James McCloud appear as like a ghost.
Yep.
And he leads you out, which is a really cool way to end the game. I thought that was so badass. Like you have this crazy fight with the boss. You're trying to escape. You don't know where to go because there's explosions. And your dad just guides you through with like the spirit of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, the final boss for Andross, like... The first one, the easy mode, is very much like the original game because you're situated behind the R-Wing. You just have to blast his eyes and then his face. The hard mode goes into the spiffy all-range mode, and he turns into a giant brain.
Yeah, that's right.
You have to, like, blast out the eyes because they're going to keep shooting at you or they're just going to get in your way. And then you have to try to fly around behind him, but he's constantly turning, and you're trying to shoot the ocular part of his brain that's in the back of his head. But then, the escape is just very cinematic for not having too many cutscenes in this. Like, it would be confusing. Like, if you didn't know which way to go, you're going to have to go left or right. And you still can go the wrong way. If you somehow lose sight of James, you turn left and there's just a fiery...
I've done that.
Dead end.
Yeah, it can easily happen, especially if you're not sure, and because some of those turns are kind of late, so you have to be kind of on the draw to make sure you can adjust and go the right direction.
Yeah,
because I remember that even dying, it's like, oh no.
There was a point though where I played it so much that I got pretty good at. I tried to beat him out of the base. Mm-hmm. You just keep boosting and trying to stay right on his tail, and then see if you could fly out of the last little tunnel before him.
That seems like that would be an achievement if it was released today or something, So let's get into some reviews for this, because this was also a pretty stellarly reviewed game in general. GamePro issue 106, July 1996 was the cover story. I had this issue because I remember the iconic cover. It was really badass looking.
Oh, yeah.
I had that one. And again, all fives across the board. Graphics, sound, control, fun factor, just... loved it. Quote, this game kicks asteroids. They were impressed with the controls, including the tank. They thought the multiplayer was really cool, which we played that a little bit. That was actually a pretty fun time back then. Like, it had a few different modes in there.
I feel like we played the mode that looked like Independence Day the most.
Yeah, where it was all range mode.
Yeah, where the giant spaceship comes into the middle, lots of little spaceships come out, and then you're just trying to blast as many of those guys as you can.
Yeah, in a time limit, exactly. It was basically you could score the highest score within like a certain time limit there. Yeah, that was a really fun mode. So again, that was surprising that they added multiplayer. It makes sense.
I remember we would play with Matt and we would try to like formation fly like the Blue Angels.
I remember that. All right, split.
Yeah.
Oh man, I forgot about that. That's right. Yeah. And then, so for GamePro, they really had nothing negative to say about the game. The only thing that they kind of pointed out, which wasn't really a negative, they just said that this kind of falls under the remakes that were occurring at the time, which is funny to say, but they thought Doom 64 and Mortal Kombat Trilogy were sort of contemporaries of this game, which Mortal Kombat Trilogy wasn't a remake. It was another version, like an updated version of Mortal Kombat 3. I wouldn't call it a remake. And Doom 64, which might look on the surface like a Doom game, it's a whole new different game.
Yeah, that was in no way a remake.
Yeah, but again, it didn't affect the score. It's just something they point out, which was, that almost felt like it was kind of reaching at straws. Like they're like, okay, like we haven't said anything bad, but we'll say it's a little similar like the remakes that we've seen lately. EGM reviewed this in issue 95, June 1997. They had Crash Bandicoot 2 on the cover, which is pretty cool. That Crash was a big thing at this time because he was. I love those games.
Usually the sequels always were like Spyro 2, Crash 2.
Exactly. Yeah. That's when they were hitting their strides. Yeah. Which will be fun for another episode we might do at some point. Yeah. That's good cannon fodder. I like it. So for EGM, these are all at 10, by the way. They got a 9, 9.5, a 9, and a 9. It was a game of the month. No surprise. Best feature, kicking bosses, as they said. Worst feature, perspectives, which is weird because I don't know what that really means. They didn't really give. So it's like the text review didn't really give any insight to what perspectives really meant. I don't know if it's something like maybe the camera could be obscured, like they didn't like some of the views. It's really weird.
I mean, at least they gave you a reticle this time.
That's true. I mean, this game was much easier. And
they also give you the charge shot, which was very helpful because it locked on.
And it destroyed bundles of enemies.
Yeah. They had a charge shot in Star Fox 2, but it didn't lock on. But if you could actually hit, like if you could hit a Star Wolf member, that took off like half their health in one
I would
shot.
hope so, because you're at a risk if you're charging that thing.
Yeah.
So in general, they loved the game. They loved that they had these little touches where like the teammates could affect the game. Like you could let Slippy die and it won't show the boss's health, which is a nice touch.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Or Falco, he'll lead you to secret areas depending on what conditions you fulfill, which is great. Like there's a lot in this game that you wouldn't expect. That I was shocked. I remember 25 years later. Like I played this early this week, and I was shocked at how much I remember to get to the different paths. I was like, oh my god, like this is like second nature.
Yeah. There was another thing, like if you let Falco or Peppy die, then like during boss fights, sometimes you wouldn't get their extra hits in.
Yeah. It's really cool how that all affects the game in some meaningful way. And the other negative, and I don't know if I'm gonna call it negative, but they pointed out, which I thought was funny because we were talking about this. They thought the $80 price tag was steep for a first-party Nintendo 64 game. So again, wow. A lot of people are complaining, understandably, that games are $60, $70. This was $80 in 1997. That's a lot of money in the 90s.
That's probably why I never owned it.
Yeah, it's expensive. Like I got it for my birthday, and that was like the gift. That's it. I got nothing else. This is the one thing I got that year. Nintendo Power reviewed it in issue 98, July 1997. It was the cover story, and this is when I was a subscriber of Nintendo Power. So again, I love the cover of this issue. It's also one of the more iconic ones for me too. This one had a 10-page spread of games of like a guide and tips. Reviews were a little bit more favorable than the Super Nintendo one, but still not what I would expect from Nintendo Power. So they gave graphics a 4.8 out of 5, play control a 4, challenge 4.5, theme and fun a 4. So pretty solid around, but I still would say like theme and fun 5. Like this game is exceptional. Yeah. It's amazing.
This game, I would replay multiple times in one sitting.
It's easy. It lasts about an hour maybe, depending. On one playthrough. Yeah, if that. And then the cons. Well, it's funny because they said they were initially skeptical of this game before they played it, or I should say the Rumble factor, because that's the whole thing. Is the Rumble Pack. They touched on it a little bit, and they said that they were kind of skeptical about it even meaning anything, but they actually were impressed with it once they used it. They loved the graphics and play control, and they thought it was incredibly immersive. The only con they point out was that there's no stage save function, which I thought was funny that they pointed out you couldn't save because this game isn't terribly long.
No.
It's more of like an arcade thing, like
I just said, I could play through it multiple times.
Yeah. Kind of weird. So I guess we'll get into the main game here. So did you beat this on your recent playthrough, Deuce? You just played through most of it or what?
No, I think I just played a little bit of it, but I've beaten it before so many times.
I think between you and I, we've beaten it like dozens of times over the years.
I think I got, I never unlocked the all medals thing except with a Game Shark, but I did get a good amount of medals on the planets. That was another thing too. You could go back, and if you reached over a certain kill count and had all of your wingmates, then you would get a medal.
Yes.
And then once you got a medal on every planet, like Fox would get his dad's sunglasses.
Yes.
And he would be cool Fox.
Yeah, exactly. So that was like a reward for that. Plus you unlock a expert mode.
Yeah.
Which I would assume that's just more difficult. I couldn't read too much into what it does.
Yeah.
But again, this game already had a lot of replayability to begin with because there's about 25 paths in the game. So I think there's like, I don't know, 15 levels or so total, somewhere around there. But there's 25 possible paths depending on what conditions you fulfill. Like, for instance, in Corneria, one of the first things you do is first you have to save Falco from getting shot from, these spaceships that are shooting at him. And once you save him, he goes on. But then you fly under these natural gates. Like, there's these little sort of half-moon things that are over water.
Yeah, rocky arches.
Rocky arches, yeah. So you fly through a few of those, and then Falco's like, oh, follow me. And you go through the waterfall, and then you fight the boss through there. And it's also kind of a shortcut, too, because the level's a little bit longer if you don't take that path.
Yeah.
And this leads you to a harder path where you go to, what's it called? Is it the asteroid belts? I forgot the second level.
No, that's if you go easy.
Oh, easy, okay.
Yeah, I think it's Sector Y when you go the harder route.
Maybe that's what it is, yeah. So
also, the boss that Falco leads you to is the boss from the Super Nintendo game.
Yes, from the first game, because it's also Corneria. So again, like, this is like I guess we'll just call it a remake, more or less. But because it's a remake, you're going to see a lot of similarities with the original game. But they're obviously done up, like, they look gorgeous. This is probably what, Miyamoto and them thought the game would have looked like in their head on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And they finally could realize it on the Nintendo 64. So if you've played Star Fox on Super Nintendo already, you're already falling in love with this game because it already feels really familiar.
Yeah.
But they add all these things. So there's 26 paths in the game, and then there's all these different ways you can get there. Like, in Sector Y, if you kill a certain amount of enemies, before the boss, you get to go to the marine level. I forgot what it's called. Aquas.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's I forgot we have to do that. I think you have to destroy the clamshells or the pillars, something like that. And that leads you to continue on the hard path and so on and so forth. So every level has some sort of condition, whether you complete the level just by going from point A to point B and being the boss, or you fulfill some other requirement and you get to the harder paths and then get through the true ending.
You could, if you started on the easy path, there was a way to take the black hole shortcut that would shoot you over to the hard path.
That's right. So there's warp points in here too.
There's also, like, if you're going down the easy path, but you do really well, I think it's against Starwolf, it's against the spaceship that comes in looking like Independence Day.
Yeah.
If you do that in a certain time, then you go to the medium path all of a sudden. It's like subtly adjusting to how you're playing.
That's right. It's almost like a dynamic difficulty before that was a thing. Yeah, that's a great way to put it, actually. It's like, okay, well, you're good to hard here, but not so much here. We're gonna love you down a little bit.
They also do a thing where you're facing Starwolf in one of the planets, and if you happen to not beat all of them, if you don't down all of them, then you'll face them in a later level, but fewer. Like, the only ones that survived, they'll come back at you. If you did destroy all of them, one path has you not facing them at all. Another path has you facing them in new ships. And I thought that was really interesting, really clever to keep them in it and give you another way to affect the outcome of the game.
Well, I think that's what is really impressive about this too, is that it's like, it has like this, there's a strong narrative throughout the entire game, and it changes based on the paths you're taking. And the fact that they're accounting for that in some way, whether you have full notion of it or not, the fact that you're seeing them, and then you could play another path and encounter something totally different.
Yeah.
It's almost like a choose your own adventure book in a sense, right? It's said this is based on your performance and how you do. But it's amazing to add that because, it adds a ton of replayability. Even if you want to kind of mix and match your paths just to see the levels or what you might get. Pretty freaking impressive for the time. Like, there's a lot of replayability on that.
Yeah.
Overall, I would say, like, if Super Nintendo Star Fox is like a top 10 game, I don't know, maybe I would put this top 5 N64 game. I don't know where I'd put it, but it's pretty freaking high. Definitely top 10.
Like I said, a long time ago, I made a list just in case we ever did that episode.
Yeah.
And I want to say Star Fox 64 was still top 10-ish.
I'd say at minimum.
Maybe top 7, but I mean, there are a lot of N64 games that we loved out there.
Oh my God, there are.
You'd be surprised. You think it's top 5 now, and then you're like, oh wait, what about this one? What about this one? What about this one?
Yeah, this one, it's again, it's significant for a lot of reasons, but it's also because I was around. I would have been 12, right? It would have been my 12th birthday. Like, this game was the shit for me back then. Like, I was playing this nonstop. You brought it a billion times. I remember you beating my scores on there a few times, right? Like, it's one of those games where it's very quick and easy to pick up and play. You can dive into it. And it holds up well. Just even the Nintendo 64 version that's on the Switch Online app still holds up amazingly well for being 27 years old. It still plays really well. It controls really tight. Of course, you hear the infamous, we didn't touch on that, do a barrel roll, for God's sake.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Anything. Like, that was a big thing.
Yeah, the voice acting in this, it's one of the earlier examples of voice acting, I'd say. And, I mean, it can be a little cheesy, but God, it is burned into my brain.
It really is.
Like,
everything. Fox, get this girl off me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's a guy when you're facing the enemy on the train, like he's the train pilot, and every time I hear somebody say like step on the gas, whether it's in racing or if it's just I'm driving and somebody's going slow, I always think of him because he always says it in this weird like step on the gas.
Yep.
Step on the
He's
gas.
got like that, like almost like Texas accent or something. I know that voice. I could play it here in my head right now. I can hear it. Yeah, and it actually works because the Nintendo 64 wasn't the best for voice work, but it actually works in this instance because it sounds like they're talking over comms, like they're over radio.
Yeah.
So the muffled kind of grittiness of it works. It sounds fine. It sounded great back then, and it totally ages well now just because of that. I guess now we could talk about the 3DS one, since that's actually sort of, that is a remake of, so it's funny, that's a remake of Star Fox 64, which is in and of itself is a remake of Super Nintendo. So Star Fox 64 3D has DNA from Star Fox on Super Nintendo. It's pretty incredible. This one, I played for the first time this week. And this is after, again, years ago, you told me about getting it. Like, you played the hell out of it, I think you said, right? Way back when you bought it, like, right away.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I was like, I haven't played... at that time, I still didn't own Star Fox 64 on Nintendo. So I was like, I got to get this to finally own this game that I've already played the hell out of.
Yeah, and it's really freaking good. It looks really, really nice. Like, the 3D effect... I don't think it's as strong. Like, the thing is, I just, I finished Samus Returns a couple weeks ago, and that has really good 3D effects. Mm-hmm. This is less so, but it's still pretty good. It's just, for me, it's just going back to back from Samus Returns in this. It doesn't look as good.
Well, this one is just like sort of tacking it onto a game that already exists.
It is, yeah. So it works. It's just not as impressive as I would hope it to be. But I don't care. The game is just fun as all hell. Like, they added a lot of things where, your touchscreen now, like, that's like your comms sort of center where it's like you might get a message, you have to tap the screen for like Slippy or someone to talk to you. Now it's funny, like Nintendo Power mentioned, there's no saves between levels. This 3DS version does save between levels, which I thought was funny because, again, like, this game isn't that long. No matter what path you go, it's probably, I'd say 45 minutes to an hour, maybe tops.
Actually, though, this makes more sense because you're playing on a 3DS, so your hand's going to cramp
That's
up.
also fair, yeah.
And you could be traveling, so you might need to shut it down at some point.
Yeah, but even though it has a sleep mode too, but yeah, you're right. So it does make more sense with a 3DS.
Yeah.
So just to name off a few of the changes before I get into some of our discussions about Star Fox 64 3D, which is a long-winded title that's going to kill me. So this has a 3DS mode, which is just an easier mode, and actually makes it easier to use the gyro controls because this has the gyro controls with the 3DS where you can aim with the 3DS itself. I never use those, but it's cool that it exists, and there's a mode to kind of accommodate for the difficulty.
Yeah, that I was like, no thanks. I have the Wii. I don't want to tire my.
I don't want to deal with
this.
Yeah, I'm gonna get my hands tired out from mashing.
Also, it didn't make as much sense. Like with the Wii, the screen is stationary and you're moving your hands. With this, you're moving.
Yeah, you're moving your body. It's almost it's a little weird. So they added a score attack mode, which I think is really cool mode because that seems like it's very sensible for a game like this. Like, you're all about trying to get kills and top your last score. I mentioned quick saves. Of course, the graphics here are basically built from the ground up. Like, it looks like a brand new game. It has like an orchestral soundtrack, which sounds really fantastic. Even though I love the Nintendo 64 soundtrack on its own, this is even better.
The problem is I don't usually play handhelds too much with the volume up.
Me neither. It's usually pretty low for the most part, yeah. But this one, like, I love the music. I was like, I'll see how it sounds. So it sounds pretty great. The voices were re-recorded, so it's funny, like, they sound familiar, but not quite exactly the same. I just thought maybe it's just, they refreshed the file, or like they kind of, they cleaned it up, but I guess they're totally re-recorded. The loop and U-turn moves are now mapped to shortcuts on the D-pad, which is very smart because you couldn't do that in Nintendo 64. Back then, you had to do like down and left C and like down and something
C?
like that. Something like that. Yeah.
I think it was left and down.
It was a little weird. It was still fine, but it wasn't bad. And then multiplayer removed the Landmaster tank, which is weird, but they also added two new multiplayer stages, so there's 4 instead of 2. And one thing we should mention about Star Fox 64 should go back to too is that you can unlock an on foot mode after you beat. I think you have to collect like all the medals or something. I forgot how you unlock it or something like that. I remember playing that a few times. It's really clunky and weird because it's like the levels don't accommodate for their scale, so it's almost like these tiny characters running around a battlefield and you're shooting rockets at each other.
And you can still some of the buildings are pyramid shaped, and you can still run up the side of a building.
You scale them up. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
It's so weird too because your friends can still choose the R-wing to like dive bomb the people that are on foot. It kind of reminds me of recently when we played Battlefront.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's a good comparison for it. That's exactly what it is. Except you're totally defenseless when you're on foot. Yeah. But getting back to 3DS one, so I played this week. I loved it. The one criticism I have, which isn't the fault of the game itself, it's really just my hands. Like, they're pretty big for the 3DS XL.
Yeah.
And I already hated the frame of 3DS XL because it just feels smaller, especially compared to the Switch. But mashing in here kind of cramped my hand. It made it brutal. Plus, trying to tap the R button to do your spin to deflect shots and whatnot, it really sucked playing this game at times.
I have the original 3DS. I don't even have the XL.
And I remember that, and it made me wonder how much worse it is on there because I played the 3DS at a Target and I was like, I hate this.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine. I don't know how the hell you did it.
I can't remember, but I do know I've beaten that. But I also haven't played it again since then. I didn't play it for this. Also, because I don't know where my 3DS is. Whoops.
Oh.
I know I played it recently for Diddy Kong Racing. I don't know where I put it. But yeah, like I knew I didn't want to try to replay it on there because I was like, my hand is gonna hurt. I'm older now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's worth getting if you have a 3DS. Like, I definitely think it's just an incredible game, an incredible remake. I don't know what people thought of it, and I'm sure it's probably like one of those things where it's like, you know, maybe might feel like a low effort remake in a sense because it's a lot of the same. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I loved what was in Star Fox 64. I wanted more of it, and now it's portable.
That was the main reason. I just wanted it portable.
Yeah.
Same with Diddy Kong Racing.
And it's fantastic. And of course, you know, Star Fox 64 is on the Switch app, which, you know, I think you could go either way. Like, you could play either version, whether it's the 64 version or it's 3DS. You know, I'll probably stick to the 64 version on Switch because of the controls. Like, it just feels better in my hands.
It's just a little wonky because you have to like map the C buttons to a certain
yeah,
things.
which it sucks. I was telling our friend Matt to just text me about stuff about trying to get GoldenEye and emulators. Like, it's really weird to play any game, any N64 game on a controller that's not an N64 controller. Like, my brain just has a hard time wrapping around it.
Yeah.
I'll adjust to it, but it just never feels right. It always feels off.
Thank God, even if Xbox didn't get like the upgraded GoldenEye, at least they updated the controls.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one big thing they did, and thank goodness, because it's a nightmare on the Switch app.
I also enjoy, like, I'll dock the Switch and play with the N64 controller that came with it, or like not came with it, but you can get it, and that's one of the games where I pretty much have to play it with that.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I think I ordered you that one. I got it for like a present. I was like, yeah, you just need to get this. Like,
yeah,
because they were hard to find, and like they came in stock. It's like, we just need to get this for him because he needs to have an N64 controller on the Switch. It's the only way to play that.
Yeah.
But again, if you only play with the Joy-Con, it's fine. But I would say, like, if you have this, it's just easier to play it on N64 on the Switch app than it is to get a 3DS and play Star Fox 3D. Which, if you do get 3DS, definitely get it, because it's a fantastic remake through and through for me. So I think that'll end it for us, Deuce. I think we covered Star Fox 64, a little bit of 3D, a little bit of 2. We did a lot of early Star Fox in here.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts for the series, or, you know, up to this point, or anything you wanna chime in about Star Fox before we head out?
When we first started talking about this, or when you asked if we wanted to do it, I was like, man, we have to, because I was thinking about it, and I'm pretty sure this is like top 5, top 6 Nintendo franchises for me. Like, Metroid is up there, obviously, Mario, Zelda, but Star Fox, like, they only usually do about one game per system, but they're always really solid.
Mm-hmm.
And I just enjoy the characters. I enjoy, it might be a simple story, but they've surprisingly kept it going through all of these different iterations. In fact, I think Star Fox Command on the DS is kind of like the overall finale to everything.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
They have so many different endings. It's almost like Detroit Become Human. They have so many different endings you could do, but all of them seem to wrap up all of the characters, new and old. Like, even in that one, they have Crystal from Star Fox Adventures. So yeah, like, anybody that's been introduced, they just start wrapping them up, and it adds replayability to that. But yeah, I just really enjoyed this whole series.
Yeah, it's up there for me too. It's definitely one that I have a lot of fondness for back then. And it's another one of those series with F-Zero where I wish they would do something new with it, because we're just desperate for a new game. It feels like that Star Fox Zero was not doomed to fail, but the Wii U was already struggling, and then it also they changed a lot in Star Fox Zero to its detriment, which I think a lot of people didn't like. It's like sometimes when you try to reinvent the wheel when it didn't need to be reinvented, like, it was fine.
It was also another kind of remake we didn't need. Like, it's told the same story we already knew.
Exactly. So it's weird that they made that choice, because it definitely paid for it, unfortunately. Like, we haven't seen a Star Fox game since. But especially Star Fox 64, that's probably my favorite in the entire series, because I played it the most. It's probably the most fun. I say it still looks pretty damn good for being an N64 game so late.
Yeah.
And, you have the remake, which is even better. But in general, like Star Fox, like I just love, like you said, the characters, the theme. It's a great sci-fi story, and it's fun because even when Miyamoto was devising Fox, he wanted to make sure that he wanted to use animals because that was sort of not the norm for science fiction stories.
Oh, that's true.
All right, and it worked great. Like
yeah.
These are iconic characters all the way for me. They're like Nintendo hallmarks. In
Sometimes
most senses.
You don't even see them as animals because you just see them as their personalities.
Yeah, like they just seem like they exist in their own universe. Like it doesn't seem like it's like totally nonsensical.
Somehow Fox is the leader and the top pilot, but then Falco the bird is like, no, I'm better because I'm a bird. It came
naturally. Nice competitive edge with each other. Yeah, I know it's really cool. We got to play them in Smash Brothers too. That was a big deal.
Oh yeah, and Wolf actually became one of my favorites. Fox was always my favorite since like the N64.
I remember that absolutely. Yeah.
I do want to see now, like, if they're gonna go back, because Zero was trying to restart the story, they need to go back even further. Have a gritty prequel where you play as James.
Yes, that's what needs to happen.
Even though you know the outcome, what's gonna happen, still go through it, and maybe in the last level you play as Peppy trying to escape.
Well, let's make that like the beginning section. Like, if the game's broken up into 3 acts, like the first act is the history of Andros and James and all that. And then you get into like 2 years later, right after he just disappears.
Yeah.
And you start the Star Fox story with Fox and McCloud.
Yeah.
I would love something like that. I hope Nintendo revisits this series because I'm even shocked that they just have treated it the way they have. Like you said, it's most instances it's 1 game per generation at best. And there's a couple on DS, I think. There was, or was it just Command?
It was just Command. Assault was on GameCube.
GameCube had 2 actually, Star Fox Adventures and Assault, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So even then it's kind of novel because Star Fox Adventures was like a 3D platformer kind of game, right?
Yeah, it was Rare, wasn't it?
It was Rare. Yeah. So, I really hope they bring something forward with Star Fox because I think it's due, hopefully, with Switch 2. And in general, like, it's a top series for me. I think, this is definitely one of the more favorite ones we ever covered.
Instead, we're going to get some sort of like Star Fox 99.
Oh, God, I hope not. Exactly. Yeah. I'd be settled with that, too, if it was just like a Battle Royale thing, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll settle for anything at this point. I settle with F-Zero 99.
Battle Royale dogfighting.
Exactly. Yeah. So if anyone else out there wants to share their Star Fox memories or their favorite Star Fox games, just let us know. You can send us an email at legiongamingpod@gmail.com. And you can also find us on Instagram at Legion Gaming Podcast. Ducey, any final words before we bid ourselves good luck to go off in the Lylat system?
Good luck.